Tonight we remember when football became a religion in Western New York. Then there was Aquafest and construction of the first indoor suburban mall in the region.
All those headlines of years past. Here's News 8 Now's Dave McKinley with News 8 Then.
10 years ago this week, Republicans formally nominated Bob Dole to be their standard bearer in that year's race for president. And though the GOP convention was in San Diego, there was definitely a New York state of mind, with Dole's choice of Western New York Congressman Jack Kemp as his running mate and the honor of making the keynote speech bestowed upon New York Congresswoman Susan Molinari this week in 1996. 20 years ago this week, and after 2 consecutive seasons of 2 and 14 futility, suddenly
the news had been out only a few hours when the phone started ringing this morning at Record Theater's Ticketron outlet.
Yes, brothers and sisters, I said suddenly.
Suddenly, interest in the hapless Buffalo Bills is taking off.
The phone's been ringing off the hook, as a matter of fact.
Yea, because unto these huddled, unwashed masses yearning to breathe victory and willing to forget how he'd snubbed them just 2 years before, a savior was delivered this week in 1986. 30 years ago this week, well, we don't usually do this, but do you remember back a few months ago we showed you this car and told you how it was found in Lake Ontario near Durand-Eastman Beach and how the cops couldn't figure out who owned it? Well, what would happen if nobody claimed it and it was left there all summer? Well, it was, and here's your answer from this week in 1976. 40 years ago this week, with another Rochester Aquafest in the books, it was time to turn our attention to Henrietta and that year's Monroe County Fair. Then from the fair to the fairways, where the great Arnold Palmer was in town long enough to snuff out a cigarette and take to the links for an exhibition at Locust Hill. Meanwhile, progress was being made on construction of the area's first indoor suburban shopping mall. Take a close look at the distinctive facade as we pose this week's News 8 Then Pop Quiz, which is, do you know what this is? And as that was going up, something else was coming down. This chimney, built in 1872 and standing 126 feet high, it was the last surviving structure of the old state hospital at Elmwood and South Avenues until the dynamite did its work. A good thing there were some extra firemen about, 4,000 of them attending the annual State Firefighters Convention at the War Memorial. While mustering along Mount Hope Avenue, they gave us a lift in a 70-foot aerial ladder, affording you a vintage view of downtown Rochester to the north, the way it looked back in the days of News 8 Then.
This is News 8 Now.
Here's the answer to this week's News 8 Then Pop Quiz.
40 years ago this week, the first suburban indoor shopping mall was under construction, and we asked if you recognize this building. Of course, the old Greasetown Mall, which would be completed and then open to shoppers the following year. In subsequent years, Wilmarite opened Long Ridge, Eastview, Marketplace, and the Irondequoit Mall.